When war breaks out between two opposing factions, the longer the war goes on, the more there is a tendency to demonize the other side. This was not so on Shabbat the 7th of October. Within the very first hour, Hamas showed their savagery and their absolute disregard for core human values. There was no need for demonization. Killing and maiming every person in sight, they left a trail of destruction. Inside the kibbutzim, horror after horror was the order of the day. With GoPro cameras shouting Allahu Akbar, they gleefully filmed their own actions of murder, rape and torture. It wasn't a war about land. It was a war of extermination. These sadists were exhilarated in massacring 1,200 innocent civilians. As more details of these atrocities emerged, the 7th of October 2023 became known in Israel as the Black Shabbat. But it wasn't the first Black Shabbat in the history of kibbutzim. The great privilege of living here in Israel is that I am living history. I'm not viewing it from the outside. I'm actually living it here on the inside. So today I am here in the cemetery of Givat Chaim Mu'uchad. You can see over there the older part of the cemetery with the founders of the kibbutz. We will go in there soon and we will see the headstone of one of the founders of the kibbutz that actually I am related to. But here is the new section which was developed in this part as a commercial cemetery for people from outside who had a connection with the kibbutz. Now, among all of these headstones is one famous person who is known, and his activity is known outside of Israel. Do you remember the story of the refugee ship in 1947, the Exodus, that ran the gauntlet of the British Mandate blockade, stopping refugees and people who survived the Holocaust from coming into then mandated Palestine? And if you do not know the true story of that, then think back to the novel by Leon Uris, Exodus, and think of the 1960 or 1961 movie with Paul Newman portraying Aryeh Ben Canaan and the then illegal immigration to Palestine of Jews who were the survivors of the Holocaust. Here in our cemetery we have the tombstone that shows a boat, a ship, and this is the tombstone of the real captain of the Exodus ship in 1947, Ike Aronson. And why is he buried here? Because he was part of the illegal immigration bringing refugees, particularly to the shores near here. The illegal immigration of refugees from the Second World War and the Holocaust was known as Aliyah Bet, and it started immediately after the Second World War when the concentration camps were liberated. The reason that I have called this episode From One Kibbutz Black Shabbat to the present one is that in 1946, and I'm showing here the military part of our cemetery of of guys, members of the kibbutz, who fell in action. But going back to the original Black Shabbat, in November 1946, the British Mandate forces governing Palestine then, they did a one-day action around all of the kibbutzim from here in Givat Chaim Mu'achad to Yagur, and they surrounded the kibbutzim looking for illegal immigrants and looking for arms caches. When Jews in the surrounding district around Givat Chaim understood that Givat Chaim was being surrounded by the British Army, and in fact a one-day blockade, if you want to, or siege of Givat Chaim was about to happen, then people from the whole district streamed into Givat Chaim from the villages, the moshavim and the kibbutzim in the whole district to protect the kibbutz and protect any illegal immigrants, and obviously not for the British forces to find the illegal arms caches. A hand-to-hand battle ensued, and this woman here, Seige Lieberman, was a heroine of the hand-to-hand fighting. She personally was clubbed over the head, and following that she was permanently deaf for the rest of her life. And what I want to tell you is that she was the mother of my wife. I never knew Seige Lieberman because she died in 1972, 8 years before I met my future wife. Prior to the establishment of the state in 1948, all the kibbutzim, as gated communities, were suitable for clandestine activity during the British Mandate. The Haganah Underground Army used them as training bases. The Palmach was the elite fighting force of the Haganah. The word Palmach is an acronym for its strike companies. 2 years ago, Palmach veterans celebrated the 80th anniversary of its foundation. I attended one such celebration in my kibbutz of its surviving members. I'm here at the signboard commemorating the 80th anniversary of the Palmach, the strike force of the Haganah. I'm here in the field between Givat Chaim Mu'achad and our neighboring kibbutz, Ein HaChoresh, and this path where the cyclist is coming along now leads into Ein HaChoresh. The reason I'm here is because of this monument, which is a monument to the fallen Jews in the siege of Givat Chaim in 1945, the 26th of November. Here at this point, the British Army surrounded the kibbutz, and hundreds of people flocked to the kibbutz to protect the kibbutz against the siege by the British Mandate soldiers. In 1933, Adolf Hitler came to power in Germany. Very quickly he started his anti-Jewish laws. As discrimination and persecution increased, many Jews realized that they could no longer remain in Germany. Many of them fled west. Others chose their ancient Jewish homeland in Palestine. Under Arab pressure, the British Mandate policy in Palestine from 1934 onwards was to prevent Jewish immigration. This was called the White Paper on Palestine. The Arabs naturally accepted this, but the Jews did not. German refugees came by ship and overland seeking a new home. When World War II broke out in 1939, the Jews in Palestine set aside their differences with the British policy. 30,000 of them joined the British Army. However, in 1945, at the end of the war, the horror of the Holocaust of 6 million Jews became known. The remnants of European Jewry from many countries renewed their efforts to reach the shores of Palestine. There were many ships like the Exodus. This monument was erected to commemorate the 9 defenders who fell in the siege of Givat Chaim. You can see the names of those people on the plaques here on the wall. They had come mostly from the Emek Hefer district around Givat Chaim, but also from as far as Jerusalem. The defenders were successful as the British troops could not distinguish between the local kibbutz members and others who had come ashore as refugees. However, a heavy price had been paid by those defenders killed and many more injured, one of whom I mentioned by name was Siba Lieberman. This short siege became known as the Black Shabbat. It had come hard on the heels of the Holocaust. Memories of the Holocaust were still fresh. Many kibbutzniks had lost family, relatives and friends in concentration camps, in pogroms, or murdered by the Einsatzgruppen killing squads. Emotions were running high. Never again became a catchphrase of those survivors. That slogan spread to Jews throughout Palestine. When the State of Israel was established in 1948, never again became ingrained in the Jewish psyche throughout the world. And yet, we now look back on 4 months ago to October the 7th, 2023. The role of kibbutzim on the Gaza border was reinforced as with the first Black Shabbat. As with this battle in 1945, the kibbutzim and moshavim have paid a very heavy price. October the 7th Black Shabbat reminds us that the safety of Jews and the State of Israel can no longer be taken for granted. I look around at our beautiful country. I see what we have established, the beautiful green fields, the start-up high-tech nation. I think of everything that the kibbutzim have given to Israel in terms of defense, security, culture, education, and border settlement. I think of all the innovations that Israel has given to the world, from stents and the world's smallest video camera inserted into the human body, drip irrigation, the Iron Dome defense system, Mobileye for cars, USB flash drives, and much, much more. Where would the world be without tiny Israel? If you have enjoyed this video, please subscribe, like and share on your social media. If you subscribe, YouTube will inform you of the next episode. Coming up next, within 1 week from now, Children Up in Flames, with Brian Ratner from the UK talking about casualties of war in Gaza and his own personal experience as a young boy. So, keep well, shalom, lehitraot, and bye for now.
Accept the Muslim community's affinity with Palestine.